Hey everyone, welcome back to the episode 3 of a Speaking Mind podcast. Today we are going to dive into the world of science fiction and figure out how far is science fiction from real science. So without a further ado, let's just get to it. I'm sure that at some point in your life you must have wondered about the space that lies between science fiction and reality. If not, then at least after watching a sci-fi movie, you must have thought about its plausibility in the real world. Well, for starters, the sci-fi genre is very vast on its own, and chances are that at least some of the things which were portrayed as fiction some time ago have actually been brought to reality now. For instance, inventions like flip phones, tablets, universal translators, Bluetooth handsets, and 3D printers are all among such things which are directly inspired by Star Trek. I mean, there was a time when these actual things were a part of science fiction realm. Just think about telephones 50 years ago. Many people must have dreamt about wireless phones and video calls, but how many actually believed that one day they all will be reality? Also, the evolution of technology is really fast. It took 66 years for a man to fly for the first time and ultimately land on the moon. If we jump back to just 90 years, the father of nuclear physics, Ernest Rutherford, believed that the thought of harnessing the power of an atom was moonshine. Only if he was around now, how quickly do you think he must have swallowed his words? This once again proves that what seems to be science fiction today becomes the reality of tomorrow. To draw more comparisons, let's just start with one of the most famous sci-fi movies of all time, Back to the Future. It's a bit early to talk about time travel, but we can surely talk about the things that it predicted to have become reality by 2015. Granted that hoverboards and flying cars are not a thing, but we do have wearable technology, smart clothing, personal flying drones, portable video conferencing devices, video glasses, and biometric locks. And yet we are moving towards things like fusion engines and air power, which is basically electricity through the air to charge your electronic devices. One thing is certain, Nikola Tesla will surely be happy. Now that we have reached Tesla, just think about how futuristic a Tesla car is. Autopilot in a car that can drive you anywhere on its own. It can come to you from a parking spot, it can adjust the temperature for you even before you get in, and you can listen to your favorite podcast while playing a game of chess as the car takes you to your destination. I'm certainly not suggesting that you should, but you can if you wanted to. It's all about principle. And all of this was science fiction 10 to 15 years ago. Okay, so we have talked about how science fiction from the past has become today's reality, but what about today's science fiction? How far we are from the things which are fictional in today's time? And we just can't talk about today's science fiction without bringing our attention to robot uprising and time travel. I certainly know that alien invasion is also a hot topic, but it deserves an episode of its own. So, what are the chances that artificial intelligence will become conscious and decide to terminate all of humanity? I am certainly not an expert in the field, but what I am is an expert at Googling. And from the articles that I have read, some of the experts are definitely concerned about this. It's not like they are worried that a Terminator will be coming soon. Think of it in this way. When people in the past used to think about robots, they used to think of a humanoid being who could do everything, from doing your dishes and walking your dog to taking out the trash and driving your car. But what happened in reality? Programmers wrote algorithms that enabled a car to self-drive. The fiction indeed became reality, but not in the form of a single robot doing multiple things, but in the form of multiple and highly specialized robots doing very specific things. Point being, there is not an all-doing highly intelligent AI that we need to worry about. Since AIs are generally built to be experts in one or two fields, even if an AI uprising occurs, it will be more like humans not being able to participate in a car race and less like humans struggling to maintain their existence. Nonetheless, at least from my point of view, we need not worry about an AI uprising anytime soon. Now that AI uprising is out of the way, what about time travel? Einstein's general theory of relativity does suggest that time is nothing but an illusion relative to an observer, and it can slow down and speed up depending upon how strong of a gravitational force is exerted through space. In theory, It is indeed possible for a person to travel back and forth in time by utilizing things like wormholes, Alcubierre drives, cosmic strings, etc. But the practical feasibility of such concepts is yet to be identified. So, unfortunately, this science fiction dogma is still within the realm of fiction. But you never know when the most implausible thing becomes so possible that it takes the form of reality. So, keep your fingers crossed. I know that I'm leaving out countless other concepts like teleportation, invisibility, telepathy, telekinesis, interstellar space travel, superpowers, etc. But as I said earlier, the entire genre of science fiction is so vast that it is almost impossible to talk about every single concept in 5 minutes podcast or a 1,000 words article. Maybe it's also a part of fiction that every single topic of science fiction can be talked about within 5 minutes. Maybe one day this will also become reality. Till that day, let's talk about one topic at a time. And this brings me towards the end of the podcast pretty much. In conclusion, I would like to say science fiction is not too far behind actual science because yesterday's science is tomorrow's reality. Thank you for listening to this episode of Speaking Mind Podcasts. If you're a reading fanatic, then you can go ahead to our blog and you can check out the transcription of this episode as well as all the other episodes absolutely free. Do check out the other episodes from the library. And once again, thank you for tuning in.